Energy Transition, episode number 42, with Slav, David Blackman, and Armando Cavagna. Good afternoon, good morning, both, and our audience.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Our topic today is Desperation with Winter in Europe. Just for context, I made some slides, some pictures that I would like to show you before we start. Can you see my screen? Yes?
Yes.
So, see, UK and EU, they
Mm.
import 600,000 barrels per day of diesel from Russia.
Wow.
It's a very, very big number. Another very interesting thing, France is preparing the winter power cuts.
Oh boy.
Yeah, but Switzerland is funny. They are banning electric cars and game consoles.
Game consoles. Yeah.
Yeah, because they consume so much energy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big
They
problem
do.
for families. And the last one, Russia says that will not accept the price cap. I'm
Mhm.
not sure about that. No, no, David. But the question, the first point, please, David and Irina, from 0 to 10, considering 10 being the maximum, what's the level of desperation and confusion in Europe in the energy crisis? A number, please, David and Irina.
Irina's living it, so I'll let her go first.
I know we're actually fine. We're fine for now. It's amazing, but we're
Yeah.
better than the Western Europe. I'd say 7 going on 8 because I just watched the other day a statement by Estonia's prime minister or president. I'm sorry, I don't remember, who said that unless Estonians reduce their energy consumption, there will be blackouts because they used to import electricity from Russia, 1,000 megawatt hours or something, but now they're not. So they have nothing to fill this gap with. And Bloomberg's Javier Blas just released his latest column, reminding the world, as we have been doing us three for weeks, months, that winter is just coming. And just because your gas storage is full doesn't mean anything, because it's going to get cold now. It wasn't cold in October or November. Now it's getting cold, and things will get worse a lot more quickly.
7 to 8. Good. Good
7
number.
going on 8. Yeah.
And David?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would have to agree with that. As Irina points out, in her country and other parts of Eastern Europe, they're in better shape. In better shape than the northwestern part of the continent, obviously. And this ongoing reliance on Russia for diesel and other energy imports, natural gas even is still flowing into Europe through that pipeline that goes through Ukraine. It's terrible for the continent's energy security, but they don't have a lot of options. And we talk about natural gas. I mean, Embarrass put out a report in October speculating exactly what Mr. Bloss was talking about in Bloomberg, which was really an excellent op-ed, by the way, as Irina says. That really Europe, unless it has a mild winter, could completely run out of natural gas in storage by March or April in the northwestern part of the continent.
It will never be mild enough. That's the
Right.
thing. It
Yeah.
could
And
never
and
be
no,
mild enough.
right. And we had all this talk about a mild November, but it really wasn't that mild historically. And December is shaping up to be quite cold. And so it's a real very difficult situation they have right now. And as I said, they don't have a lot of good options to fill the need.
Yeah, that's right. LinkedIn user
Good
saying,
Good
morning,
morning.
Stu.
I bet that's Stu.
That's Stu.
yeah. Oh, Carla Passine works with me in a university, Catholic University in Brazil.
Good morning, Carla.
Hello.
And Stuart sent a very good comment.
Germany is on a 12 and Norway is on a 5. Actually, I just talked last week to the CEO of a Norwegian battery manufacturer. He would tell you that Norway is probably less than 1 in terms of concern about its own energy, because so much of their energy mix is hydroelectric. And
Yeah,
of course, they have plentiful natural gas, all the natural gas they need. They export natural gas via pipeline into Europe. And, Norway's fine. Of all the European countries, I would assume Norway may be even the very least concerned about an energy crisis.
yeah, but
That,
they'll have to stop exports to be sure they'll
Yeah,
have enough for their own needs, and this will be so unfriendly.
yeah. Oh, I
yeah,
know.
that's
They'll get criticized for it, just as the United States is getting criticized for profiteering from the war on
Yeah,
natural gas prices.
yeah,
And that's just what the market bears right now. And if Europe's not willing to pay the market prices for those LNG cargoes are going to flow to Asia and other parts of the world where they
yeah,
were
that's
going
right.
before all this started. So,
Yeah. But Russia is saying that will not accept the price cap. What do you think about this, David? This is
well,
60.
yeah, the cap goes into effect today. I guess the G7's cap, as we call it, of $60 a barrel. And this morning, Reuters is reporting that Russia is selling oil into Asia for $79 a barrel.
it's
19.
working.
Yeah, it's working. It's
Yeah,
working great, just as the G7 planned. And
Yeah,
it's you can't enforce that. It's not enforceable. Russia will find ways to work around it, and India and China and their other big customers for oil imports are going to pay market prices or the discounted prices they've been paying already. And it's going to have almost no impact other than inconveniences related to the sourcing of tankers, which Russia's already figured out a workaround on that, and disadvantaging Western insurance carriers who have previously insured those cargoes and now won't be able to profit from insuring those cargoes. So it's kind of a self-defeating policy, really, in a lot of ways.
it's
it
even
is,
worse. It's worse for the cappers.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is a kind of provocation. They trying to make with Russia. What's the mindset of these guys to make this bans and sanctions?
On whose part? Who do you
No,
mean?
I mean Europe and United States make sanctions and bans.
I have
But
no idea what they really want to accomplish, because right now what they're accomplishing is the opposite of what they're trying to accomplish. As David said, Russian oil is already far more expensive than the cap. And Western European insurers are effectively losing business because of that price
Yeah.
cap. And I especially like the way Japan got an exemption from the price cap.
yeah,
The report's headline was that Japan enforces the price cap except for oil from Sakhalin too,
Right.
because that's how oil it gets, and it has said it cannot survive without this oil. So really, I think that after a certain time has passed, this will go down in history as one of the biggest political jokes,
Yeah.
uh, unwitting jokes at that in
yeah.
geopolitics and in business.
And David, you see that these measures of Europe trying to take make some kind of effect, positive effect in terms of control of energy crisis.
Well, these are politicians, and it all goes back to we have the wrong people making these decisions because the political class of globalist elites in Europe and the United States are making all these decisions, and they are the very worst class of people in our countries to be making these decisions. They don't understand the markets, they don't understand energy, they have no knowledge of physics and thermodynamics and supply and demand laws and all of these things that you need to understand to make rational energy policy decisions. This cap, this that the G7 wants to enforce, is a political move. They're trying to convince the people in their countries that they're being tough on Vladimir Putin, who is a horrible actor, and no one should make light of the war in Ukraine. It's a despicable act. It's as very comparable to what Hitler did in Europe in the late 1930s and early 1940s, and so no one should make light of that. But this is just a political move to convince the people who vote for them that they're doing something to go after Putin when they're really not doing anything effective at all. And it's really very cynical and self-defeating in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's right. Irina, Stuart is asking about protect underwater pipelines. You are very close to this region. What do you see about this?
Well, I don't know. They never said who sabotaged Nord Stream. So
Right.
I know that the Baltic Sea was full of NATO vessels. So just keep them there.
Yeah, I mean,
don't know
who are
what
they
more
going to
to say.
protect them from? Who are they protecting those pipelines from? Because there are only two countries who have the assets in the region and the wherewithal to sabotage those pipelines without being discovered in advance, and that is the United States and Russia. And so you either believe Russia blew up its own pipelines, which I tend to believe, frankly, for geopolitical reasons, or the
In a sea
United
full of
States
NATO
did it.
vessels, come on.
Right. Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. Right. And so, I mean, if the United States did it, well, I mean, the United States pays most of NATO's bills. So,
Yeah, but it also exports LNG to Europe, which I don't think it holds up because these are private companies exporting LNG
Yeah,
to
that's
Europe,
right.
not the US government.
yeah,
Not
our
states, yeah.
government
But
has no ability to control LNG prices.
yeah, but it's a fact that nobody ever said what the conclusion of the investigation was, and
Right.
I think it's quite noteworthy and actually remarkable that they didn't go with the usual Putin did it.
I know. It's very remarkable.
That's right. That's
So
right.
yeah, sure.
Stuart, they are good. The country of Norway exporting electricity? Yes.
Move to isolate and export less electricity. Well, certainly in the winter they will. I mean, they because their electricity needs domestically are going to rise in the winter, and they will. They always export less into Europe, natural gas and electricity during the winter months, and that will happen again this winter, and that just increases the pressure on Germany and other countries.
Yeah, I think
Mm,
Norway is a pretty rational country,
Yeah,
so they'll put the needs of their people first.
mhm. Oh, there is a second part of the question. How the power control of EU as trading electricity will be limited by country. Of course, they prefer their countries first, and there's no doubt about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, this will make the situation really complicated.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But see, if you could help these managers to take good actions to solve the problems, forgetting about the Ukraine conflict with Russia, but in terms of energy crisis, what can we do to them? What could we say to them to, let's see, to promote, to orient the population?
Very good question.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have a lot of good options, and in the short term, there really aren't any happy answers to this. There really aren't. You've enabled Putin to have all of this geopolitical advantage over you by becoming independent or becoming dependent on Russia for so much of Germany's and other countries' energy supplies. And so when Putin creates this hostile act and invades Ukraine, and you start invoking these sanctions on Russian energy, well, you have to source that energy from somewhere else or impose severe draconian restrictions on your populations, which we see Switzerland talking about doing by banning the use of electric cars and cutting back on consumption of all sorts of other electric equipment, even as they're incentivizing an energy transition, to electrify everything. And so it creates the desperation situation creates all of the need for these seemingly irrational actions by these governments because they don't have any other real choices other than continue to pay
That's right.
these extraordinarily high prices for LNG from Qatar, which Germany's going to do for the next 20 years now, by LNG from Qatar
Mm.
and from the United States, and it's a terrible situation for these countries that really have the most severe pieces of this crisis, and all I can do is just say, look, you've got to think long term about finding ways to produce much of your own energy. And for some of these countries, they don't have a lot of underground natural gas resources to try to tap. So they have to go with renewable sources for much of it, and or nuclear. And in
Without
the
gain
long run,
control.
the obvious answer to solution to this situation is nuclear if you
Irina,
want zero emissions.
yeah. Irina, what would you say to Mr. Macron and other
Oh,
leaders?
to Macron, well, not that he's personally responsible. What did you do with your nuclear reactors? How could you let them sink into this repair? I mean, for years we've been writing on oil price about the mismanagement of the Venezuelan oil assets
Hmm.
and how sanctions are part of the problem. The other part is mismanagement. But that's Venezuela, a communist government, totalitarianism, and everything. And now we see the same in France, mismanagement, years of mismanagement, and lack of obviously essential repairs to such an extent that now they have to shut down a third of their reactors to repair them at the worst possible time. So it's just really, really bad governance.
Yeah, it
So
really
I
is. And
really don't know what nothing
Li-
could be done in the immediate term, as David said.
exactly.
So.
Lila is saying exactly what you mentioned, Irina.
why not nuclear? Yeah.
Why
Well,
not nuclear?
I have no idea why not nuclear, except in Germany they have obviously moral and environmental concerns, and they have had them for decades. It's like I don't know. It's like an aversion to nuclear energy that has been built over the last more than 30 decades, really. I think it started in the late 70s, this opposition.
Right.
But nuclear is a very good solution, especially if you want net zero, um, if you want no emissions from your electricity production.
So
So
much
there
of
is
it.
no reason why not to do nuclear. But you can't just start building nuclear plants right now because it takes a long time to build them. They should have thought about this earlier. Really, they
Yeah,
do take time.
10 years. Yeah, from cradle
Yeah,
to grave.
but when we say that nuclear is good for the environment, we are not considering the beginning of the process to the mines and the end of the process when we need to reject the used material.
Sure.
Oh, it could be recycled. It could be used, I think, for other things. The Russians are doing something. They're turning it into fuel again. And the mining of uranium compared to the mining of copper and cobalt and nickel and
Lithium.
all the battery materials, I think has a lower carbon footprint. I
Oh,
can't be
much lower.
sure because I'm
Very
not a
good point.
miner, but it
Very
sounds
good point.
like it would have a much
It's
lower.
a tiny fraction.
Uh,
It's a tiny
yeah,
fraction.
yeah. Especially
And
since you don't use huge quantities of it.
Very good point, Irina, this one.
Yeah, thank you for this
That's
question, Leila.
interesting.
yes, they should reconsider. There's no doubt about that. But again, so much of it is just political. The wind and solar industries have become the chosen
Exactly.
rent-seeking industries of these governments, and they view nuclear as the enemy, the competition, and so it that combined with nuclear's just huge image problems from the 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl and the catastrophe in Japan. It makes it really difficult to convince governments to allow companies to really move on nuclear in a
Yeah.
really a scalable society way, and so it's
And the
just
problems,
so much
David,
politics.
the problems were not related to the nuclear themselves, but the structures and
Yeah,
other things that are
lack of
becoming better
proper
every day.
attention to safety. It's no different than the Macondo blowout in the Gulf of Mexico in
It
2011.
happened.
It
Yeah.
happened because of a lack of proper attention to safety, and and so you end up with a disaster, and that's that it's a hard problem for an industry to overcome, image wise.
Yeah, that's right. So Desperation 7 to 8. We can conclude with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Going to
overall,
eight.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
going to 8
So
and maybe 10 by the end of winter.
Yeah. Very,
yeah,
very likely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Only God helping to have a mild winter in 2022 and 23.
It won't be it won't be good if the winter is not just mild but warm. It will be bad for crops.
Yeah,
Crops need snow in the winter. And with Germany now apparently following the example of the Netherlands and telling its farmers to reduce their use of nitrogen fertilizers, this will affect crop yields too, I expect. So a mild winter may turn out to be a bigger problem than the energy shortage over the longer term. And by longer term, I don't mean 10 years, I mean next year.
right. Yeah,
So,
next year could be more difficult than this winter. Yeah.
yeah, with regard to food
Yes.
and energy, of course, it will be worse.
So in Brazil, from Brazil, I wish you have a good winter, a mild winter, both.
Thank you.
Andrew, sorry, David in Texas and Irina in Bulgaria. So in Brazil is becoming warm every day. So we are becoming it's coming to summer, and the summer here is
Right.
strong.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not easy. Thank you so much.
Stay
Was a
golden.
Thank
yeah
you.
nice
Thank you. Y'all
conversation.
have a wonderful week.
You
Thank you.
too.
You too.
Bye
Have a good
bye.
week.
Thank you, the audience
Bye.
too. Thank you.